The message came at exactly 3:47 in the morning, Earth Standard Time. It arrived on every human communication channel at once. Every screen, every speaker, every holographic display across 47 colonized worlds suddenly showed the same image: a tall alien creature with dark blue skin, 6 arms, and a face made of hard plates that moved like muscles. Ambassador Elena Vasquez was sleeping when her assistant woke her up. She walked into the communication center of the orbital station Prometheus Rising with messy hair and a cup of coffee that had gone cold. She looked at the frozen image on the main screen and sighed. "Play it," she said. The alien moved. His name was High Sovereign Kethvaron, and he was the supreme leader of the Velthari Dominion. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Humans of Earth and the scattered colonies," he announced, his 6 arms spreading wide in a gesture that was supposed to look threatening. 3,000 years ago, our ancestors came to your world. We offered you a place in our empire. You refused. You fought. And though we were forced to accept a temporary truce, we never forgot the insult." Elena took a sip of her cold coffee and made a face. Lieutenant Chun, her young assistant, stood beside her with wide eyes and a pale face. "The Dominion has grown powerful in our silence," Kethvaron continued. "We have expanded across 17 star systems. We have built fleets that darken the stars. We have multiplied beyond counting. And now, humanity, we have come to finish what our ancestors started. The truce is broken. War has begun." The message ended. The screen went dark. Lieutenant Chun turned to Elena with shaking hands. "Ambassador, what do we do? Should we contact the military? Should we evacuate? Should we—" "Chun," Elena said calmly. "Yes, Ambassador? Please get me Admiral Okonkwo on a secure channel. And make me a fresh cup of tea. Something calming. Maybe chamomile." Chun stared at her. "Tea? Ambassador, they just declared war on all of humanity." Elena smiled. It was the smile of someone who knew something that others did not. Yes, they did. Poor things. While Chun hurried off to follow her orders, Elena walked to the large window that looked out into space. She could see Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. She could see the moon, covered now with cities and factories. She could see the constant flow of ships moving between stations and colonies. 3,000 years. It had been 3,000 years since the Velthari first came to Earth. Elena remembered her history lessons well. In the year 2157, humanity had just started building its first colonies on Mars. They were excited about the future, proud of their small steps into the universe. Then the Velthari arrived with 500 warships and demanded surrender. Humanity said no. The war lasted 11 months. It was brutal and bloody and terrible. Millions died. Cities burned. But somehow, impossibly, humanity held on. They fought with everything they had. They turned factories into weapons plants overnight. They sent soldiers into space with equipment held together by tape and prayers. They refused to give up. In the end, the Velthari were shocked. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves bleeding and tired, facing an enemy that simply would not stop fighting. They offered a truce, and humanity accepted. But humanity never forgot. Admiral Nkechi Okonkwo's face appeared on the screen. She was a tall woman with gray hair and dark skin, and she looked like she had also been woken up from sleep. But her eyes were sharp and alert. "Ambassador Vasquez," she said, "I assume you received the message." "I did," Elena replied. "What is our current military status?" The Admiral almost smiled. "Almost. Ready. We have been ready for 3,000 years." Chen returned with a cup of tea. His hands were no longer shaking, but he still looked confused. "Ambassador, I don't understand. Everyone seems so calm. The Valkyrie have 17 star systems. They have hundreds of military bases. How can we possibly fight them? Elena took the tea and breathed in its gentle smell. Lieutenant, do you know why humans build things? To use them? Sometimes. But mostly, humans build things because we can. Because we are curious. Because we get bored. She turned to look at him. 3,000 years ago, the Valkyrie taught us that the universe was dangerous. That there were others out there who wanted to hurt us. So we prepared. Not because we wanted to fight. We do not like war, Lieutenant. We find it wasteful and sad. But we like losing even less. On the screen, Admiral Okonkwo nodded. The Defense Council is meeting in 1 hour. We need to decide our response. I will be there, Elena said. In the meantime, send a reply to High Sovereign Kethvaran. What should it say? Elena thought for a moment. Then she smiled again, that strange knowing smile. Tell him, message received. Thank you for the notice. We will be in touch. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. That's it? That's it. After the Admiral signed off, Chun looked at Elena with complete confusion. Ambassador, forgive me, but that message sounds like we are scheduling a business meeting, not responding to a declaration of war. Elena finished her tea and set down the cup. That is exactly what it sounds like, Lieutenant. And that is exactly the point. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at the young man. The Valkyrie think they know us. They remember a young species, barely touching the stars, fighting desperately to survive. They think we're still that species. She shook her head slowly. They've no idea what we have become. And when they find out, I suspect they will wish they had stayed home. She left the room, leaving Chun alone with his thoughts and the dark window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, across the vast emptiness of space, the Valkyrie were preparing for war. They were polishing their weapons and fueling their ships and dreaming of conquest. They had no idea that humanity was not preparing for anything. Humanity had finished preparing a very, very long time ago. In the great war chamber of the Valkyrie Dominion, generals and admirals gathered around a massive holographic display. The room was carved from black stone and lit by floating orbs of pale blue light. It was designed to look impressive and frightening, and it worked very well. High Sovereign Kethvaran sat on his throne at the center of the room. His 6 arms rested on the carved armrests, and his faceplates were arranged in an expression of deep satisfaction. Around him, his military leaders clicked their mandibles with excitement. War Master Yithrul stepped forward. He was old for a Valkyrie. His blue skin faded to a lighter shade, but his mind was still sharp. He had spent the last century studying humanity, and he was considered the Dominion's greatest expert on the subject. My sovereign, he said, bowing his head, I have prepared a complete analysis of human military capability. Show us, Kethvaran commanded. The holographic display changed. It showed a map of human space, with Earth at the center and 47 colony worlds spread around it like scattered seeds. The humans have expanded slowly, Yithrul explained. In 3,000 years, they have colonized only 47 worlds. Compare this to our glorious Dominion, which controls 17 complete star systems with over 200 military installations. Clicking sounds of approval filled the chamber. Their fleet numbers approximately 12,000 vessels. Yithrul continued. Based on our intelligence, these are mostly patrol ships and transport craft. They appear to be using designs that have not changed significantly in several centuries. Admiral Threxnall, commander of the Dominion's main attack fleet, leaned forward with interest. What about their weapons technology? Primitive by our standards. Plasma cannons, fusion missiles, basic energy shields. Nothing that our newest ships cannot easily defeat. Kethvaran made a sound of pleasure. So the humans have grown soft and lazy during the peace. They built no great fleets. They developed no new weapons. They simply existed. It appears so, my sovereign. They seem to have focused their efforts on civilian matters, building cities, creating art, exploring scientific questions with no military purpose. Yuthral's voice carried a note of disgust. They wasted 3,000 years on peace. What Yithral did not know, what none of the Velthari could possibly understand, was how completely wrong he was. The 47 colony worlds were not simple settlements. Each one was a fortress. Each one had factories hidden deep underground that could produce warships at a speed the Velthari could not imagine. Each one had defense systems that had been improved and perfected over 3,000 years of paranoid preparation. The 12,000 patrol ships were exactly that, a patrol. A neighborhood watch, the equivalent of local police officers walking their daily routes. They were not humanity's military. Humanity's real military was something else entirely. Deep in the asteroid belts between Mars and Jupiter, there were shipyards that did not appear on any public map. They had been building ships in secret for nearly 2,000 years. Not because anyone ordered them to, not because there was any immediate threat, but because the engineers who worked there loved their jobs and kept finding ways to make better ships. The sleeper fleet, they called it. 400,000 warships, each one fully automated, each one armed with weapons that had never been used in actual combat. They floated in the darkness, running endless training simulations against each other, getting better and better at destruction simply because they had nothing else to do. And then there was Prometheus. Nobody talked about Prometheus. It was not on any official list. It did not appear in any military document. When young officers asked about it, their superiors would get a strange look in their eyes and change the subject. Prometheus was humanity's answer to a simple question. What if someone attacked Earth itself? What if the colonies fell? What if everything went wrong? The answer was not a ship or a weapon. It was something worse. Something that made even the admirals who knew about it uncomfortable. But the Velthari knew nothing of this. They saw only what they expected to see. A weak species that had failed to prepare for the obvious return of its enemies. Back in the war chamber, Cathvaran stood from his throne. Send the order to all fleets. We attack in 10 cycles. Our target is Earth itself. Cut off the head, and the body will die. His generals bowed and clicked their approval. My sovereign, War Master Yithral, said carefully, should we not be cautious? The humans did defeat us once before. Cathvaran's faceplates shifted into what passed for a smile among his people. That was 3,000 years ago, old friend. We were arrogant then. We underestimated them. But now we know exactly what they are capable of. Our intelligence is perfect. Our fleet is unstoppable. This time, there will be no truce. Yithral bowed his head again. As you command, my sovereign. As the generals filed out to prepare their forces, none of them noticed a small communication device hidden in the wall. It had been placed there 500 years ago by a human spy who had died of old age, long before the current Velthari leaders were born. The device had sat quietly for centuries, recording everything, sending regular reports back to Earth. The humans knew exactly what the Velthari were planning. They had known for a very long time. In a small office on Earth, a young intelligence analyst to read the latest report from the ancient spy device. She wrote a brief summary and sent it to her superiors. Then she went to lunch because it was Tuesday, and Tuesday was soup day in the cafeteria. Nobody panicked. Nobody called emergency meetings. The Velthari were coming with everything they had, and the humans responded by eating soup and discussing the weather. It was not that they did not care. They cared very much. But they had been waiting for this moment for 3,000 years. And they were ready. The Velthri thought they were launching a surprise attack. In reality, they were walking into the most carefully prepared trap in the history of the universe. The United Earth Council met in a room that looked surprisingly ordinary. There were no dramatic lighting effects, no massive screens, no flags or symbols of power. Just a round table, comfortable chairs, and a window that looked out over the green hills of Switzerland. 12 people sat around the table. They represented all of humanity, every colony, every nation, every major organization. They were the ones who would decide how to respond to the Velthri declaration of war. Admiral Nkechi Okonkwo stood at one end of the table, her uniform neat and her expression calm. She had been preparing for this meeting her entire career. In a way, humanity had been preparing for this meeting for 3,000 years. "The situation is simple," she began. "The Velthri Dominion has declared war. Our intelligence indicates they plan to attack Earth directly with a fleet of approximately 30,000 vessels. They believe this will be enough to destroy us." Councillor Morrison, a nervous man who represented the European Federation, raised his hand. 30,000 ships? That is an enormous number. How can we possibly defend against that? Admiral Okonkwo almost smiled. "Counselor, I have prepared 3 response options. Allow me to explain each one." She touched a control on the table, and a holographic display appeared in the air above them. It showed a small group of ships, sleek and angular, and somehow dangerous-looking. Option 1. We deploy the Third Fleet, 17 ships. These are our newest vessels, equipped with technology that the Velthri cannot detect or understand. Based on our simulations, these 17 ships should be able to disable the entire Velthri attack force within 6 standard weeks. The council members looked at each other with confusion. 17 ships against 30,000? Asked Councillor Yamamoto from the Pacific Union. How is that possible? Our weapons technology has advanced somewhat since the last war, Okonkwo said, and there was something in her voice that made the councillors uncomfortable. Each ship in the Third Fleet carries a quantum displacement cannon. A single shot can remove approximately 300 enemy vessels from existence. Not destroy them. Remove them. They simply stop being. Silence filled the room. Option 2, Okonkwo continued. The holographic display changed, showing a vast region of space that appeared to be empty. We wake up the Sleeper Fleet. The what? Morrison asked. The Sleeper Fleet. 400,000 fully automated warships. They have been waiting in the asteroid belts for the past 2,000 years, running combat simulations, maintaining themselves, and improving their tactics. They were built in secret, and they have never been used. She paused. If we deploy them, the war would last approximately 4 hours. Councillor Chen Wei from the Asian Cooperative leaned forward. Why were we never told about this fleet? You were told, Councillor. It is in the classified defense briefings that all council members receive when they take office. Page 347, Section 12, Paragraph 8. Most people do not read that far. Chen Wei looked embarrassed. I see. Option 3. Okonkwo's voice became quieter. The holographic display disappeared entirely. We show them Prometheus. The room became very cold. Several council members shifted in their chairs. Admiral, said Councillor Yamamoto slowly, I have heard rumors about Prometheus. I always thought they were exaggerations. Children's stories told to frighten new recruits. They are not exaggerations. What is Prometheus? Asked Morrison, who clearly had not heard the rumors. Okonkwo looked at him for a long moment. Prometheus is not a weapon, Counselor. It is not a ship or a fleet. It is a response. A final response. If Earth were ever truly threatened with destruction, Prometheus would activate. And what would it do? It would ensure that whoever threatened Earth would not survive to threaten anyone else ever again. Morrison's face went pale. You mean it would destroy them? Their fleet? No, Counselor. I mean it would destroy them. Their fleet, their colonies, their homeworlds, their species. All of it. Every trace of their existence would be removed from the universe. Okonkwo's voice was flat and cold. Prometheus was built by people who survived the first HFY War. They watched millions of humans die. They swore that if humanity ever faced extinction, they would take the enemy with them. Into the dark. Forever. Nobody spoke for a very long time. Finally, Counselor Yamamoto broke the silence. Option 1 seems sufficient. Let us not wake sleeping gods unless we must. The other council members nodded quickly, eager to move away from the topic of Prometheus. Okonkwo nodded as well. I agree. The Third Fleet will deploy within the hour. We will intercept the HFY at the edge of the Sol system. If possible, we will offer them one chance to retreat. And if they do not take it? Morrison asked. Then they will learn why humanity has survived for so long in a dangerous universe. Okonkwo gathered her materials and headed for the door. We did not choose this war, counselors, but we will finish it. After she left, the council members sat in silence. Counselor Chen Wei finally spoke. Did we really build something that could destroy an entire species? Counselor Yamamoto looked out the window at the peaceful hills. We built many things during the long peace. Hospitals, universities, beautiful cities on 100 worlds. Art and music and literature that will last forever. She paused. But we also built weapons. Terrible weapons. Because we remembered what it felt like to be helpless. To watch our people die and have no way to stop it. Do you think we went too far? Yamamoto considered the question. Ask me again after the war is over. If there is still a universe left to ask questions in. Outside the window, the sun was setting over the hills. It was beautiful and peaceful and completely ordinary. But in space, 17 ships were powering up their engines and preparing to meet an enemy that had no idea what was coming. The response had begun. The HFY Armada emerged from hyperspace like a dark cloud spreading across the stars. 30,000 ships arranged in perfect battle formation, each one carrying soldiers eager for combat. It was the largest military force the Dominion had ever assembled. And High Sovereign Kethvaran stood on the bridge of his flagship feeling like a god. Report, he commanded. We have arrived at the edge of the Sol system. My sovereign, reported Admiral Threksnall. Earth is approximately 4 hours away at attack speed. No enemy forces detected. Kethvaran's faceplates shifted with satisfaction. They did not even come to meet us. The cowards hide behind their world, hoping we will show mercy. He made a clicking sound that was HFY laughter. They will find no mercy here. My sovereign. A young officer looked up from his sensor station with confusion. I am detecting something. Very small. Directly ahead. Define small. 17 vessels, my sovereign. They appear to be positioning themselves between us and Earth. Silence spread across the bridge. Then, Kethvaran laughed again, louder this time. 17? They send 17 ships against 30,000. He turned to his generals. The humans have lost their minds. Perhaps they mean to surrender and brought only an escort. Admiral Threksnall was not laughing. Something about the situation felt wrong to him, though he could not explain why. My sovereign, should we not be cautious? The humans are foolish, but they are not stupid. Why would they send such a small force unless what? Unless they have some secret weapon? Kethvaran waved a dismissive arm. Our intelligence has studied them for centuries. We know everything about their capabilities. These 17 ships are probably the best they have left, We will destroy them and continue to Earth. He activated the communication system. Human vessels. This is High Sovereign Kethvaran of the Velthari Dominion. You are outnumbered and outmatched. Surrender now, and we will grant your crews a quick death. Resist, and we will make examples of you. The response came quickly. The voice was calm and female, and completely unafraid. Velthari Fleet, this is Captain Sofia Esperanza of the U.S. Remember nothing. You have entered restricted space. You have 30 standard minutes to turn around and leave. This is your only warning. Kethvaran stared at the communication device as if it had grown teeth. Did she just threaten us? It appears so, my sovereign. With 17 ships? Yes, my sovereign. Kethvaran's confusion turned to anger. These humans are insane. All fleet units, prepare to attack. We will show them the price of their arrogance. His ships began to move forward, spreading out into an attack pattern designed to surround and overwhelm the tiny human force on the bridge of the Remember Nothing. Captain Esperanza watched the approaching armada with steady eyes. She was 53 years old, and she had spent her entire adult life preparing for exactly this moment. Captain, said her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Obi, they are not retreating. No, they are not. She did not sound surprised. Are all systems ready? Quantum displacement cannon is charged and locked. Fire control is waiting for your order. Esperanza nodded slowly. Open a channel to the fleet. Her voice echoed across all 17 ships. All vessels, this is the captain. Remember your training. Remember what we are fighting for. And remember, we do not want this war. We did not start it. But we will end it, here and now. For Earth, for humanity, for the future. She closed the channel and turned to her weapons officer. Fire. The Remember Nothing shuddered as its main cannon activated. A beam of impossible energy shot forward, but it did not hit the Velthari fleet directly. Instead, it seemed to twist, to fold, to reach into places that should not exist. 300 Velthari ships simply vanished. One moment they were there. The next moment they were not. No explosions. No debris. No screams on the radio. They were just gone. On his flagship, Kethvaran watched in horror as his tactical display flickered. Where 300 of his ships had been, there was now nothing. What happened? He screamed. Where are they? Unknown, my sovereign. Sensors show no debris, no energy signatures, nothing. They simply disappeared. Before anyone could respond, another beam fired from another human ship. Another 300 Velthari vessels vanished. And another. And another. Captain Esperanza's voice came over the communication channel again. 29 minutes remaining. Admiral Threxnall grabbed Kethvaran's arm. My sovereign, we must retreat. We cannot fight this. We do not even understand what this is. But Kethvaran's mind had frozen. He could not process what he was seeing. His entire understanding of the universe had been based on certain facts. The Velthari were powerful. Humanity was weak. War was about numbers and strength and firepower. None of those facts seemed to be true anymore. All ships, attack. He screamed, attack. Destroy them. The Velthari fleet surged forward, firing every weapon they had. Plasma bolts and missiles and energy beams filled the space between the fleets. None of it mattered. The human ships danced through the fire like ghosts. Their shields absorbed hits that should have destroyed them. Their weapons fired again and again, each shot erasing hundreds of Velthari ships from existence. In 30 minutes. It was over. Of the 30,000 ships that had entered the Sol system, only 300 remained. They floated in space, their weapons disabled, their engines dead, surrounded by human vessels that had not lost a single ship. Captain Esperanza, looked at the broken fleet on her display. She felt no joy, no triumph, only a tired sadness. Open a channel to the Valkyrie flagship. Catharan's face appeared on screen. He looked like a creature that had been shattered from the inside. His faceplates hung loose and wrong, and his eyes were empty. "High Sovereign," Esperanza said quietly. "The war is over. You will be escorted to Earth, where you will discuss surrender terms with our government. If you cooperate, your surviving crews will be treated well. If you do not—" She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Catharan said nothing. He simply nodded once, slowly, like a broken machine going through its final motions. "Captain." Esperanza ended the transmission and leaned back in her chair. "Take us home," she said, and the Remember Nothing turned toward Earth, leaving behind a field of empty space where an empire's dreams of conquest had died in less than an hour. The peace conference took place in Geneva, in the same building where human nations had once gathered to solve their own conflicts. It seemed fitting somehow. The room was filled with sunlight from tall windows, and there were flowers on the table. Someone had thought flowers would make the meeting feel less like a surrender. High Sovereign Catharan sat alone on one side of the table. He had refused to bring advisors or guards. What would be the point? His fleet was destroyed, his generals were prisoners, and everything he had believed about the universe had been proven wrong. Across from him sat Ambassador Elena Vasquez, Admiral Nkechi Okonkwo, and 3 members of the United Earth Council. They did not look like conquerors. They looked tired and sad, like people who had been forced to do something they did not enjoy. "Before we begin," Elena said gently, "would you like something to drink? We have tea, coffee, water." Catharan stared at her. "You destroyed 99% of my fleet in 30 minutes. You could destroy my entire species if you wanted to. And you offer me tea?" "Yes," Elena smiled softly. "We are not monsters, Catharan. We never wanted this war. You forced it upon us. We forced nothing. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors humiliated us. They defended themselves." Admiral Okonkwo interrupted, her voice firm but not angry. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors came to our world with weapons and demands. They tried to enslave us. We fought back. That is not humiliation. That is survival. Catharan's faceplates shifted with frustration. We were the stronger force. You should have submitted. That is the natural order. The strong rule, the weak obey. Perhaps that is how the universe works where you come from, Elena said. But it is not how we see things. Strength is not about who has the biggest weapons or the largest fleet. Strength is about what you do with your power, how you treat those who are weaker, what you build, not what you destroy. She poured a cup of tea and pushed it across the table toward him. After a long moment, Catharan took it. He had no idea how to drink it, but he held the warm cup in his 4-fingered hand and felt something he had never felt before. He felt small. How? He finally asked, "How did you become so powerful? Our intelligence studied you for centuries. We saw your patrol ships, your colonies, your peaceful cities. Nothing suggested you could do what you did." Admiral Okonkwo leaned forward. "Your intelligence saw what we wanted you to see. The patrol ships, the simple colonies, the quiet lives. You saw a species that had grown soft during peace." She shook her head. "You misunderstood us completely. Then explain it to me." Elena took over. "When your ancestors attacked us 3,000 years ago, we were young. We had just started reaching for the stars. We thought the universe might be full of friends waiting to meet us. Your people taught us otherwise." She looked out the window at the green hills beyond. "After the first war ended, we made a decision. We would never be helpless again. We would build defenses so strong that no one would ever threaten our home. But we would do it quietly, secretly. We did not want to become like you, obsessed with war and conquest. We wanted to live in peace, so you hid your weapons. We hid everything. Our real ships, our real technology, our real capabilities. We built wonderful things during those 3,000 years. Kethvaran. Art and music and science. Beautiful cities on 100 worlds. We explored the universe and discovered its wonders. We raised our children in safety and taught them to love and to question and to dream. But you also built weapons that could erase entire fleets from existence. Yes, Elena's voice was sad. We built those too, because we remembered what it felt like to be attacked, to watch our people die, to feel helpless while our world burned. We swore we would never feel that way again. Kethvaran looked at the tea in his hands. And Prometheus? I have heard whispers. The guards speak of something even your own people fear. Elena and Nkonkwo exchanged a glance. Then Elena nodded. Prometheus is our last option. Our final response. If Earth were ever truly destroyed, Prometheus would activate. And whoever destroyed us would follow us into oblivion. Their entire species, every colony, every ship, every trace of their existence. Gone. That is monstrous. Yes, it is. Elena did not look away from his eyes. It was built by people who survived the First War. They were traumatized and afraid, and they wanted to make sure that if humanity died, we would not die alone. We have never used it. We hope we never will. But it exists as a warning, as a promise. Attack us if you must, but know the cost. Kethvaran set down the teacup with shaking hands. What happens now? To my people? To the Dominion? That depends on you. Elena's voice became warmer. We are not going to destroy you. We are not going to enslave you, or humiliate you, or take revenge. That is not who we are. Then what do you want? We want peace. Real peace this time. Not a truce, not a temporary pause while both sides prepare for the next war. We want your people and our people to learn to live together, to trade, to share knowledge. Maybe someday to become friends. Kethvaran made a sound that might have been bitter laughter. Friends? After everything that has happened? Why not? Elena smiled. 3,000 years ago, human nations fought terrible wars against each other. They killed millions, destroyed cities, committed horrible crimes. Today, those same nations sit together in this building and solve their problems with words instead of weapons. Change is possible. It just takes time and effort and the willingness to try. She stood up and walked to the window. Look out there, Kethvaran. See those hills, those forests, that blue sky. Humans have lived on this world for hundreds of thousands of years. We have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other badly. But we have also learned. We have grown. We have become better than we were. She turned back to face him. Your people can learn too. You can grow. You can become something more than conquerors. But only if you choose to. Kethvaran sat in silence for a long time. The tea had grown cold in his cup, but he barely noticed. He was thinking about his ancestors, who had come to this world seeking to rule it. He was thinking about his own invasion fleet, reduced to scattered debris and prisoners. He was thinking about everything he had believed and how wrong he had been. Finally, he spoke. My people will not understand. They will see this as defeat, as shame. Then help them understand. Elena sat back down across from him. Be the leader who teaches them a new way. It will not be easy. It may take generations, but it is possible. She raised her teacup. To the future? Kethvaran looked at her. Then, slowly, he raised his own cup. "To the future," he said quietly. And somewhere in that simple gesture, something changed. Not the whole universe, not all at once, but something small and important shifted. A door opened that had been closed for 3,000 years. Outside the window, the sun shone on the green hills of Earth. Birds sang in the trees. Children played in parks, unaware that history was being made in a quiet room nearby. The war was over, but more importantly, something new had begun. It would take time. It would take patience and effort and countless small acts of courage and trust. There would be setbacks and arguments and moments when everything seemed hopeless. But for the first time in 3,000 years, two species had the chance to build something better than fear. And that was enough to start.